We are live.
Welcome to a fully complete episode now that Ashley's back.
We got
of
a
Gen
here.
XYZ. Yeah. And we'll so in respect to that, we'll kick it off the right way. I'm Pete. I'm the Gen Xer.
I'm Peter. I'm the millennial.
The millennial with some sass today. I'm feeling
I'm
some
the man with
sass.
the plan. Yeah.
And I'm Ashley. I'm the Gen Zer.
Well, welcome back, Ashley. We missed you last week. You were out partying on the beach, on a beach somewhere, bachelorette party. No.
Well, I was, but I don't know about partying because I got really seasick on a boat and I ended up not feeling well and just sleeping the whole boat ride. So huge fail.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I saw some pictures earlier. It looked like you were having a good time. So I guess it went downhill quickly.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to land. Welcome back to Gen XYZ. We're glad to have you. And today we need you for this topic because we're talking about influencers. And since you are our resident queen of social media, we couldn't do that without you.
Of course. I'm not an influencer yet, but I got a lot of knowledge. So.
Aren't we influencers? Are we influencing people right now?
Very few. Very few. However, right, you've been responsible for creating multiple videos with well over 1 million views, tens of millions of views. I think the biggest one that you've created that is over it's sitting around 31.3 million last time I looked.
Yeah, it's still slowly going up. My 2 toddlers in a video that I made a work meme with just went viral, and then I ended up having a Star Wars one and then another toddler one. I don't know what it is with people, but they love watching toddler videos and comparing it to work. So
but the numbers are staggering, right? On our fledgling social channels for ZenGig, I looked the other day and we get about 5 million monthly views right now on our social channels. That's a big number, you guys. I mean, you compare that to some of the TV networks and their primetime shows like news networks. I was listening to CNN numbers the other day. Someone was talking about the debates coming up tonight, and their numbers are shockingly low. Like they don't get that many viewers relative to what one of our single videos can get. And so the world's changing. The world has changed a lot. I think it's going to change a whole lot more between YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And what am I missing? Snapchat, LinkedIn here is a platform that there's a lot of influencers on here already. Peter, you love them?
I love the LinkedIn influencers. Yeah. Would you say like Instagram? Yeah. I mean, the stuff that we see out there, like, it's just crazy to think that like millions of people watch, some of these videos that anyone can just make it, so it's wild to me.
So would you say like being an influencer is some sort of career that's developed now that people can go out and apply or
a lot of money in it? So yeah, I guess so. It's so new though. Like, is that going to be all right? So say you're an influencer today. What are you going to do in 10 years, 20 years? Like, is that I have no idea. It's such a wild world. Like, is that a thing where you just do it for a little while and then you go do something else? Like, do you consult on it? Like, I don't know.
Well, go ahead, Ash.
I feel like many of them end up as consultants because again, when you reach a certain point in your life, there's only so much you can start influencing people to get. By the time you're 60, you can't be an influencer unless you're going to be selling canes or,
Oh, wow. That's what the world is going to be. When you're 60, you get canes.
This is what we get from having a Gen Zer back. Canes at 60. Actually, I'm going to look at that. I think those are baby boomers, which I am not. But I'm going to defend 60-year-olds and say there's not a lot of them walking around without canes unless they have an underlying medical reason. So,
yeah, I hope that's not the case, but
that's a good question. I don't think it hasn't existed long enough to see the evolution of young people. You see a lot of young, attractive people, right? That's a way of becoming an influencer who people like to look at. That's, I think human nature kicking in. There's people who are interesting. There's people who are funny. There's people who are intelligent. There are all kinds of different angles you can approach it from. But I think that's the thing that has to be in place, right? You have to have an angle. You can't just show up and say, I want to do this without having something that is going to attract viewers. You have to figure out how to get that attention. And that's probably the hardest part about it, I think, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for a career, it's not just hitting that apply button, submitting a resume. It's literally having to build something and create a brand for yourself, and then hopefully getting like affiliate deals to start really making money.
Well, you said brand for yourself, which is kind of something that's important, I think, for I guess everybody nowadays. Like having your own, your branding, being able to market yourself. They're almost like like independent business owners at that point. Like they're having to do their own marketing, which I guess kind of is expanding out. And now everybody hasn't. We tell job seekers all the time, have your LinkedIn up to date, have these things, and you should market yourself on those. So even a random job seeker's almost, if you're trying to be open to new opportunities, you're almost like a mini influencer in that, like you should be marketing yourself.
There's a huge blend of that, right? And we should probably separate them, but to your point, it is merged together. So I was on interviewing someone yesterday on a podcast, and they talked about, the subject was, how do young professionals get experience when they don't have experience, right? How do you portray that on a resume? And we talked quite a bit about the potential to do projects on your own. So let's say you're a software developer. Well, you could showcase your work on your social media platforms. So yes, when you're a student, you can use it for fun. By all means, do that. But you can also use it to start building your professional reputation. And I think that world is already blended. I think it's only going to blend more. But I get really excited about it because it opens up doors for everyone, right? You are only limited by your own creativity and willingness to apply yourself. And this concept, Peter, that you just described, I've seen defined as solopreneurship, right? Like you are a solopreneur. You're a business of one, the business of you. I love it. I think it's super cool.
It is cool. And it's one of those things that's like, it's going to morph over time because I mean, the way someone is a influencer today didn't exist 10 years ago. I mean, there were people around, there was YouTube and stuff, but it was not the same. And 20 years ago. So where it's going to go in 10 years, like where is a famous YouTuber, like where's Mr. Beast going to be in 10 years? Like, is he going to still be making YouTube videos? I don't know.
Well, he'll be a billionaire, probably a multi-billionaire if he's not already. He has a media empire that he's already built, and it's only getting bigger. I mean, and his story is, you guys know I love his story. I talk about him all the time because it's not this. There's a misconception that the influencers, the people who have big social media presence, they don't work hard, they're lazy, they got lucky, they just showed up, and they don't deserve it, right? His story, for anyone who's listened to it, is the exact opposite. He will tell you that he worked 24/7 for 10 years before he became famous. And think about that, right? If you applied yourself 24/7, and he really does describe it that way. I mean, he goes into some great detail about it. I highly recommend listening to any of his interviews on different podcasts. But if you applied yourself with that kind of effort in any profession, you would expect to have a high degree of success.
Yeah.
He's just doing it publicly and for all to see. So I love it. I think he's just going to grow and grow and grow. No end in sight.
Well, it's really cool. Like, I've watched some of his videos and he talks about, he's like, he worked all the time, but he also liked it. And it was like kind of his hobby. So it's one of those things where he's like, I was interested to do it. So I just kept doing it. And I spent all my time doing it. And it ended up, because I was putting so much effort into it, it kind of paid out. And I think that's the case you see with, a lot of influencers, like even the videos that seem like they're, not that well produced or whatever, like there's a lot of thought into it for the ones who are really big,
I think it's also, a lot of people argue, like, is this going to die out? Is this going to stay, a thing? I feel like personally, it's a new taste of advertisement. Before influencers existed, we were so used to just watching commercials on TV, and we were influenced to go buy makeup products or looking through magazines and just giving it a try. I feel like with influencers, it's so different because we get kind of like a taste of reality. Like, what do they think of this product? How does it look on them? They're like kind of like test subjects in a way for us before we go buy something. So I personally can't see that going away, because then I feel like we're going to lose that experience.
Well, it's sort of like how broadcast news is dying, in my opinion. Traditional broadcast channels, where if you want news today, where do you go? I go to Twitter. Ashley, I know you go to TikTok. Peter, where do you go? You go.
I probably would. I mean, Reddit, I guess.
Go to Reddit.
Yeah.
Right. So these are citizen journalism, right? We go directly to the source and we trust it more. Whether we should or not, that's a different discussion, but we do. I think we should. It seems more reliable. I'd rather get information directly from an actual person than from some scripted thing on the news. And we all know that there's a lot of trust and faith that's been lost in that. And so it's all part of the same story to me that is just in its early stages, right? I mean, I think of it, you guys, Peter, you've probably seen this movie, Ashley. I don't know if you have. It's Office Space. Are you familiar with that?
I think I did I found a video of it before and I tried making a meme and you were like, that's Office Space. Then I went in a loophole to see what it was. So
I feel like it's something that makes me feel old. So
right. If I looked at the date, I probably would feel really old. But there's a classic character in that who gets fired from his job, but he keeps showing up every day. And that's how I think of TV, cable news today, where they're dead. They just don't know it yet. And they keep doing what they're doing, but their ratings are sinking while social media platforms and the people who are sharing news on there, they're growing like a weed. I mean, look at Tucker Carlson's numbers. He got fired from Fox and his numbers are way, way bigger than anything he could ever do there.
It's just going to change though, because we were talking about how everyone was pirating all the movies and the shows, and then the streaming services came along, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll pay for that because it's easy." And now every streaming service, sorry, this is like a thing I just saw. Every streaming service now has commercials, so we're back to cable basically. So maybe it is cyclical. I don't know. Maybe news is just going to change, and every newscaster is going to be an influencer, and then it's just going to be news again. So,
don't you guys think that? Let's just take traditional news, right? When I was growing up, I was talking to one of my kids about this the other day. There were 3 channels: ABC, CBS, NBC. That was it. Those were your options. They had a monopoly on this, and there was no opportunity for some kid somewhere with lots of ambition and talent, unless they went to the right school and had the right network and just went through that formal process. They could never build a reputation. They could never make a lot of money. Now there's nothing holding you back. And that's, again, where you hear Mr. Beast start with a cheap computer and no external microphone. He just did it and kept doing it until he figured it out. And that's such a true, what I think of as an American success story. And that's why I like influencers so much, because it's like, hey, it's an even playing field. Let the best rise to the top.
I think it makes it really easy to a lot of the best influencers are networking with other influencers. There's collaborations. So I think that's a really kind of a cool thing that, even non-influencers can kind of take from it, is like the way social media exists and the way, your LinkedIn or even your personal ones, like you can make connections with people and kind of get an online presence in a way that like you definitely couldn't before. Like the thing that makes influencers possible is also beneficial to kind of like every job seeker or any candidate or anybody who's on the job market.
I feel like even just the brands that they collaborate with, I've seen them go on a retreat somewhere for Pantene, which is the shampoo. And now they have a connection to that brand. So if they ever, want to promote that or get more money or, have questions for the company, they have complete access.
Yeah. And
if you look at them like advertising, kind of like you just said, I mean, then it kind of frame it makes it easier to frame it as like it's no different than a commercial. It's not, not always someone's real life,
Yeah, no, I feel like people are always, they don't think about it so much as okay, they're trying to sell me something, just because the way they're doing it is just so
organic.
Organic. Yeah. They're just this is what I'm doing today. Little do you know that they're using a special knife to cut this orange, and they have it linked to their, or let's just say they are filming a get ready with me, and people are like, where did you get your clothes? And then they just make an affiliate link and start making money just from that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, I think, an implied connection with these people that you'd never have from seeing a TV commercial, right? You follow people you like, you follow people that resonate with you, you connect with, whatever the reason. I mean, I think I'm probably like a lot of people where I have different tastes and interests and moods, and I follow different groups and people and brands that represent all of those. So sometimes I'm in the mood for comedy. Sometimes I'm on social media to learn. And so it's not like a one size fits all thing, but I do have something that connects me with them, a reason to trust and like them or be entertained by them. And I'd much rather take advice from the people I have a connection with.
I feel like there's definitely pros and cons to influencers. I feel like right now we've talked about the good stuff, but I feel like also some bad stuff where some influencers just love having beige everything, where like their children's toys will be wooden and colorless.
All right, what do you mean? You're losing me with that.
You've never heard the beige aesthetic?
No.
So people sometimes
Now this is me being the old guy coming out. I think I know the loop.
Some people will hate on influencers because everything in their house is like beige, white, or cream. Their sponges that they clean their dishes with, their cleaning products, and then it drives people crazy because they're like, where's the color? Why are you selling me just like beige products? But it's become such like a big thing.
But I feel like, sorry, Peter, I feel like you're categorizing, you're focused on a specific category of influencer.
It's
like,
a lot of them.
But like one of the influencers I think of is I can't think of the guy's name, but he's this big, jacked guy who eats raw meat. What's his name? He's got this big beard. He lives out in the woods and he eats raw meat. Like that's his brand. And
is he selling people hookworms? Like, what is the point of that?
I can't believe I can't come up with his name. He has a massive following, but that's his thing. So he's sort of the opposite of what you're describing. Actually, he's anything but bland. He's like this wild man.
I guess there's like different types for everyone. There's like the wilderness influencers that show you their lives in the outdoors, the boring beige ones, and then there's actually one that's called Gothic Baby, where they have like their whole nursery is like gothic, like the whole house looks like a haunted mansion, and everyone's like giving this influencer like trouble because they're like, where's the color for the baby? Because apparently babies need to see color. But I mean,
yeah,
some people like to see that, I guess. I never thought of it that way, where there could be different types, and I guess whatever you want to watch is.
Well, so I did just see an article. It was a video, and it was funny. It was a guy talking about this, like, how come you see these coffee shops and they have the white tile and they like the reclaimed wood and the exposed light bulbs. He's like, you see them all over the world in all these major cities, and it's because that's the type of thing that photographs really well, or it looks really good on Instagram, and influencers do it. So more people copy it. So you're starting to get like this homogenization where people do the same aesthetic because it looks good on social media. So social media is like dictating how things look in the real world.
But to your point, that has a ceiling, right? Because there's only so much room in that space. If these bland influencers, by the way, and I look up, it's a Liver King. You're not familiar with the Liver King?
Liver King,
no. The Liver King, you got to look him up. Now he was sort of exposed about a year ago for taking steroids because his whole thing was like, I'm all natural, and he like feeds his kids. You literally see them eating raw meat. It's disgusting. I could never do it. But the guy looks. I
always think when I see those, like, imagine in the background that they literally had to set up a tripod and stuff. So anytime it's like, oh, it's just me doing this, like they've like had this entire like camera setup behind it. I'm like, kind of takes me out of it. But
I was laughing yesterday. Ashley, did you send me the clip? Someone did, of the guy he's a barbecue guy. He's like some 60-year-old dude who like shows people how to barbecue things. And he put out a video recently. It said, my two daughters, I have twins that just graduated from college. I realize they need career advice. So now I'm going to start giving career advice because I've interviewed probably 100 people over the years. And I'm like, wait a minute, time out. The barbecue guy is now on social media giving interview advice. Like we've jumped the shark. So I looked him up, and he's got like 2 million followers. So 2 million people watch this guy at a grill. Like, to me, that sounds like watching paint dry. However, there's a niche for everything there. So I think that's awesome.
Well,
I mean,
that's also the downside of what you said. Like, anybody can be, saying that, the news and whatever, it's democratization of it. But you have the guy who has no experience in it and is going to give me advice, and then people are going to take it like sometimes newscasters should have a little bit of like actual credentials to be able to like be, you know, they're not just some random guy down the street, because that can kind of go all across the board.
But do you think, okay, so listen, I said this is pre-COVID, right? And we all have our opinions on how COVID was portrayed. We won't get into that. Pre-COVID, I was saying things like, I'll never be able to trust what I can't see with my own eyes, right? I've lost complete faith and trust in, you know, mainstream media, and everyone should, for no other reason than this. When I was on vacation 2 weeks ago, MSNBC was on. Now, I'm normally a Fox user, so I, you know, whether you think that's makes me crazy or not is irrelevant. Because when you watch MSNBC, you are getting the 180-degree different story on any topic. And so your only logical conclusion can be you can't trust the media, because if the mainstream media of CNN, MSNBC, Fox, one of them is lying to you, right? Consistently, day-to-day lying. So I think that is how all this is born. Not only has the technology enabled it, but because collectively we look at this and say, I don't know which one I can trust at this point, so I'm going to have to just conclude that I can't trust any of it. Do you think that's
the best way to do it? Would be, you know, you have 3 separate, you know, maybe journalists who have their own direct link to you influencing, and you look at them, and then you can kind of get it direct from them, and you can make up your mind depending on the different, you know, different perspectives.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in a single forum anymore that I know of.
No,
right?
no, you've got to. I mean, you've got to. That's kind of why influencers, I feel like, are doing so well, is because people can follow multiple. You can get multiple perspectives. Yeah, I think that's where we're going. Yep.
So Ricky, our favorite HR consultant, is on to say, I've said it for years, this country values attention over intellect. I don't trust on numbers alone, nor should you. Right? I think that's a very accurate
cycle, like killed everything. So like when channels came out and started to have like have to have news all the time, then they had to have like attention, and they had to have, I'm going to get on my soapbox there. That's where we kind of went down. Like you couldn't trust a single thing, because if there's only news to fill this much, but they got to fill this much, they're going to start kind of editorializing. And that's where you get all the shows that are like opinions on stuff, is to, you know,
they're all opinions. I don't think there is. Is there just a news brought, maybe the local, you know, news that just tells you
from like
cats getting stuck in a tree?
Exactly. Yeah. There used to be the evening news, and it kind of morphed out to like opinion show. And now it's kind of just, that's all it is. It's just like, you know, that type of thing. So I think it's really good that we've got, you know, we're able to tune into maybe a newscaster has his own channel that he's not, you know, he doesn't have a boss who's telling him like, you've got to talk about this, this, and this. He can kind of just like talk about specific news things that are interesting to him.
Well, that's what's happened, right? In the last year, you've had, you know, Tucker Carlson from Fox, you've had Don Lemon from CNN. They both, you know, were fired for different reasons. And who was the guy, Cuomo, who was fired? I think he was MSNBC. So 3 of these kind of the top 3 primetime guys for a certain period,
they went
all fired.
Own now,
and they're all on their own. But I don't think anyone who already didn't trust their opinion or was already siding with their beliefs, I don't think they're changing anyone's mind. And that's where I think it's so fascinating that when we say, okay, where do you get your news? We immediately say 3 different sources that have nothing to do with mainstream media.
So do you think that the growth of this like kind of, you know, individual influencer thing, is it going to increase? Like, are more and more people going to do this? Are we kind of at like max capacity right now? Like,
I feel like we're at like max capacity. I feel like
there would be so many things. Like everybody's fighting for attention. Like Ricky said, everyone's fighting for attention. Yeah. You only have so much.
I feel like if more people try to go the influencer route, it's like there's only so much we can see. Like even following some influencers, I've been following this one person for like ever, and I just unfollowed her because I was sick of seeing like content. I just didn't want to see it anymore, and it just wasn't appealing to me. So I'm like, people will get bored of seeing the same thing over and over again.
Well, don't you think it has to evolve, right? Like everything else in life, where I know a lot of what I think, well, let's define, Ashley, maybe ask you to define influencer, because there are people who are making, their income by sharing unique information, by educating people, entertaining, as we said. And then there's people who just exist.
Yeah.
And like walk around and say, here's what I'm buying today. So how do you define influencer?
I mean, I would literally just take like they are influencing people to do something, buy something, be something.
You're making money from your social medias, basically. That's how I would define
They're
it.
making money by like manipulating people into, I guess, wanting their life or wanting to do something. Like,
so is a guy showing people grilling recipes an influencer?
yeah, it'll influence them to go out, buy a grill, go buy meat, start taking up grilling, start becoming passionate about it.
So from that perspective, then I would say, I don't think we're anywhere near capacity, right? I think there's capacity in a certain area, right? There can only be so many grill people, but think about how many different personalities. I'm sure there's I saw a video this morning on Twitter, and I forwarded it to a friend of mine who's a real estate broker. It was this guy who he films. We've all seen like realtors walking around houses and showing, here's a bedroom, here's a kitchen. This guy, he looks really young, and he does it at hyper speed, and he runs and screams and jumps. He was jumping up and down, and he had like, it's funny because Ricky mentioned Richard Simmons earlier. I don't know if Ashley, do you know who Richard Simmons is?
I don't know who Richard Simmons is, but I've seen the guy who like runs around and does like the real estate.
Have you seen him? So it was a completely different, unique perspective. It was really funny and silly, and certainly not that something most people would do, but that's what he was doing, and it worked for him. And I thought it was so unique, and like, man, that's going to get attention. And so I think there's so many opportunities for those who are willing to be creative and do something new. And I don't think we scratched the surface yet.
I think we've only scratched it for the people that are just doing like, here's my day-to-day life. Here's what I do. Because it's like, I don't know. It's just starting to seem like everyone's living the same life, using the same things. So now I don't want that. So maybe that second.
Like almost the back. I feel like, I mean, I'm seeing it like maybe it's more of a millennial thing, like, because they're getting to like, there's a backlash against like being too online. So like, I guess there's going to be less influencers for a lot of people my age, because they're like, all right, well, I'm going to purposely limit my time doing this. I'm going to try and like be out in the, the real world, so to speak. So I don't know. I feel like it's at a certain, it's going to have to change. Like it's not going to be in its same, state right now. I don't think that, people are going to continue on with this.
Well, it'll certainly change, but the numbers are massive. So, TikTok is 8 years old, not even 8 years old yet. Think about that as a platform. So how many millionaires, multimillionaires TikTok created? It's not even 8 years old. Facebook. How many users are on Facebook each month? Do you guys know? So there's 8 billion people on the planet.
How many in the world? How many baby boomers are there in the world?
Good one. By the way, you're so wrong. You guys are so wrong. It just comes up every time with the demographics. Yeah, that's just not the case. But how many of 8 billion people in the world? How many active monthly users are on Facebook?
I'm going to say it's in the millions.
Yeah, I'll say like 500 million.
3 billion. 3 billion active monthly accounts on Facebook. Yep. And so
what's active? I'm an active Facebook. I never go on it though. Like it's active.
Mine's active. My old one that I never use, that I can't get into anymore, that one's still active. That one's from like 8th grade.
Sometimes I'll say you never use it. And yet I see people, doing photo dumps, my 24-year-old daughter, her friends, a few of them that I'm connected to, they're on it. And y'all say you're never on it. You're not on it relative to TikTok. I get it, right? But TikTok is brand new. So what's going to be the next TikTok? Meta came out with Threads. That didn't really seem to kind of flame out pretty quickly. Yeah. But I don't know that you can prescribe this being. Ricky said Facebook can be a country. It can be a hemisphere. I mean, it is unbelievably big. So if your kid, now you guys are too young to deal with this. This is more realistic for me. But if your kid said, "Hey, I want to be an influencer," right? How would you feel about that? Like, I want to be a social media star.
I feel like I would look at it like kind of the same way as your kid saying like I want to be an actor. I'd be like, okay, like sure you can, but like for every one person that wants to do it, there's probably 100 failed ones. So
Or like even modeling. I feel like when kids grow up, or at least like my generation when we were growing up, we were like exposed to America's Next Top Model and we wanted to become models. And then we're just like, that's like impossible. So then we geared to something else. So I feel like if my kid came up to me and said they wanted to be an influencer, I'd be like, what's your plan? Like,
yeah, you almost need like a business plan. Like what's your niche? What is you like, how are you like, make sure they understand, like you said, there's a lot of work and planning that's going to go into it. You don't see on the front end.
Create a 5-year plan. How much money is going to go into this? Is it worth
for
it?
you? Yeah.
Do you have, I'll be honest, if my kid does not have the personality, I will be like, listen, pal, you don't have the personality to go. Because it's true, not everyone has the personality to do it, and they try and it fails, it backfires.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
I know there's my 16-year-old, my youngest, a friend of his is streaming on Twitch as a gamer, and he's making money. And his mom just found out about it recently. And this kid's pretty quiet, introverted until he's on that, and his personality comes out, and he's just in a different world. And the mom couldn't believe that he's actually getting paid to do this. And it's like, this is a thing, and he's doing it, and I love it because, to your point, Ashley, if one of my kids, I mean, when I first kind of started realizing what YouTube was about and how much time my kids spent on it, I was like, stop consuming and start creating. Like, figure out a way to be a content creator. I will support that 100%. And none of them have taken to that, but I think, why wouldn't you do that, right? Because you don't need to. Here's what I like about it the most. It's a way to have a profession, a very serious one potentially, without relying on someone else giving you an opportunity. You create your own opportunities.
I'll say too, people are kind of embarrassed to do it. They might be like, I remember in high school, this girl wanted to be a YouTuber and she would get bullied for her YouTube videos, and they were actually good. Like, she was doing great, but then she stopped doing it because she just couldn't take like people just making fun of her for doing it and being in front of the camera. So now I feel like a lot of the times when I tell people like, oh, I make like videos, career advice videos, and they're like, you show your face on camera? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I would be so like shy and embarrassed to do that. I wouldn't want anyone to see me. And I'm just like, well, you're a bit like, I don't know. It's not for everybody.
That's kind of what you said earlier. Like, if your kid doesn't, like, you got to be okay, like not be shy in that aspect, and B, you gotta have a thick skin if you're gonna put yourself out there because like you're dealing with like massive amounts of comments and stuff, and you gotta be like, I don't care type of thing, because you're gonna get bad ones.
I've gotten hate on YouTube before, and I've laughed at the comments.
You've gotten hate on YouTube this week. I don't know if you saw a video. It's got about 10,000 views so far. A video you put up 2 days ago, and a lot of people are making comments about it. But you know what? There they are sitting at home watching you and taking the time, which I find fascinating, right? Like, who is taking the time to type out a message on their phone or their keyboard to share to someone who made a video on YouTube that lasts like a minute, right? Because they're just short videos. And guess what? Every time they make a comment,
even better.
It's adding to our views. It pushes us up in the algorithm. So it's like, bring it on, baby.
Even better. I love it. That's like, so this influencer threw her 7-year-old literally a wedding sized birthday party. Like, it was insane. And she started from like nothing, like really small. And now that she's making like a lot of money, she can afford to like do all these things. And her audience is hating on it. Like, they're commenting in her comment section and just dragging her. And in my head, I'm like, you guys are like helping her, like even feeding into this even more boosting this
People
post.
do that all the time. Like that's the thing is like, or putting like a misspelling or something, or saying something incorrect, just so people will correct them. Like
Yeah.
it's funny because most people, if you talk to them, they're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Like that's a trick that influencers are use," and then they do it anyway. Like they fall for the bait. So
Yeah.
It is a weird feeling though when I am very confident in the level of expertise I have in the world of staffing and recruiting.
yeah,
And yet I'll have some like 20-year-old make a comment on one of my videos having no perspective or idea what they're talking about. And I'm like, oh, it like gets me for a second. Then I'm like, wait a minute.
you're like, I got called out. Oh wait, who
You're
are you?
in no way qualified to make that statement. And it's moronic, by the way. So you do have to have a certain, and I can't even imagine the people who are, have real popularity on there where you're getting negative comments at scale. That has to be a weird way to go through life.
Almost like celebrity status, like I don't know if you guys know this because you guys are old, but the D'Amelio sisters or whatever, Charlie D'Amelio.
Of course, yes.
You know them? Yeah. They started off really small. Now they're like celebrity status. I see them all over like my Snapchat newsfeed, just getting dragged and hated on, and like just rumors spread about them. So like I can't imagine being at that level. Like I don't think I could handle it.
I don't know. I only know of the one, right, Charlie,
Mm-hmm.
who is she the biggest TikToker? Like, does she have the most following?
She was maybe like
She like an
not
actress.
anymore.
She just does.
I'm
Like,
looking now, but between the two of them, they have 180 million followers. They are printing money. Printing money, and they're really young, and they're by the time they're 30, they're going to never ever have to. They're going to do whatever they want for the rest of their life. That's worth some hate, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But like,
Crazy.
I mean, it obviously causes like, I don't know. I feel like even though you're making a lot of money, you're still like going through it. Like,
but that's really no different than a politician.
Yeah,
or
if you
anyone, an actor, it goes with the territory, right? If you're going to put yourself out there, and we talk about it internally all the time, even though we're at a much smaller scale, it still happens. So we get a lot of, but we're helping people. We know that we're sharing quality information, and I think in their case, they know for everyone that is sending them a nasty message, there's 10,000 people who are liking it. I think that probably has to balance out pretty well.
And I guess the more hate you're getting, again, the more they're just never going to forget about you, because there's celebrities that the people completely forgotten about. And now they're in a "where are they now" video and just probably not making as much as they used to. So
I'm sure the D'Amelios will, in 20 years, people are going to be like, who's that? But they can cry themselves to sleep on their pile of money. So
yeah. So Peter, you didn't answer. So when you're a fictitious kid who, your hypothetical kid that doesn't have a cell phone until they're in 6th grade.
First of all, they're going to go farm and they're not going to have internet. So
when you raise them as an Amish kid, what are you going to say if they go, hey?
I would be okay with it. I would be okay with it. But here's the thing. I'm going to be like, you've got to show me that you're serious. Like I would want like a business plan. And then I'd be like, all right, like if it's something that I cannot like wrap my mind around, I'm pretty open-minded. Like if I can wrap my mind around like how it could be useful in a way, then I'll allow it. I mean, maybe not like going all in like right off the bat.
Quit school.
You can't quit. You can't quit. That's the great thing about influence. Like you can do it on the side though. You don't have to be like, I got to go all in right now. Like you can test the waters a little bit so you can get a proof of concept.
I really love that you brought that up, because that gets us really on track. We've gotten so sideways with this today that, and Gen XYZ is nothing if it's not to entertain ourselves. But you really don't have no boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. You could do it at night, weekend, mornings, on your lunch break.
And if you're a streamer, you just play video games at night and stream it. And that's how that kid, I guess, makes money.
And here's one of the lines that a lot of people say, well, the algorithm, right? You get on Reddit, and there's a TikTok help subreddit. There's an Instagram help. Like all these subreddits, where people who aren't getting views are asking for insight. Like, why is my video not getting views? Why is this algorithm? And everyone wants to complain about the algorithm. And the way I've seen it phrased best was, Just switch the word algorithm with audience, and that's your answer, right? It's not the algorithm that's your problem. It's the audience. They don't like your content. That's it. And so if you can win the hearts and minds of people, then you win, right? If you can't, you can't. Nothing can, it's all an even playing field.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even think if you can win their hate, because
Okay.
sometimes people will just follow you to just keep hating on you because they just don't agree with anything you say. And I mean, that does something that helps you in a way. So
Luckily, I don't follow any influencers for hate status or any of these ones who are having like drama. Like the ones I'm following are like gardening in their backyard and stuff. So mine
I do. I have to confess, I do on Twitter. I follow some people who I absolutely disagree with almost 180 degrees with everything they say, but I know they're going to keep bringing it, and I want to see it. I'm curious.
yeah.
Huh?
I said you're falling for the rage bait. That's what they do.
Yeah. Well, you know why I actually like it? Because I then go to the comment section, and I really enjoy all the comments. There are things that I've been probably thinking, but how do you guys? Let's tie this into branding. Most people are not going to try to be influencers or make a living through social media and what they put on there. But how important is it for most professions, do you think? I mean, we talk about LinkedIn a lot, but do you think the average person in a profession has nothing to do with that, can benefit by building a reputation on social media?
I think if you're in an area where you've got like a skill and you want to become software development, it works really well for kind of, digital type careers. I think software development, something like that, you're connecting with maybe say you want to be a game developer. You're a software developer, you want to get into game development, connect with a lot of these, these big ones at video game companies on Twitter. A lot of them, they'll post stuff, you can use it almost like networking, and to be like known so that anybody who finds you kind of gets a quick view of what you're all about. So it's just another way of like almost producing like a kind of out of the box sort of resume showing like, hey, I'm interested in this. I like to spend time doing X, Y, and Z. I'm connected with these people in this space. So I think it's useful if it's something that you want to kind of branch out in a certain industry.
Again, I think if you have a full-time job and you wanted a little side gig, if you build your social media enough, you can create like a profile on Creator IQ and get found by brands to start making money. Even if it's like $1 or $2, it's still something.
Well, the ones that I see, I know a couple people who have like small like influencer type followings. Like one of them, he's like a chef and he posts stuff, but he's been reached out to for like private like cooking gigs and so it's almost like that's where the consulting kind of comes in. Like they get reached out to not to necessarily sell things on but like he gets to come. He got a call from a restaurant to like come in and like help like design their menu. So it's like stuff like that, where it's like you wouldn't think of that maybe necessarily, but like you're opening yourself up to the other opportunities to make money.
There's this one girl that I graduated high school with, and she sticks to just this one makeup brand. Like her whole Instagram, she's built it so that, she's getting the attention of this one makeup brand. They finally got her attention and started sending her products for free just so she could start promoting. And she only has like 1,800 followers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Interesting.
So, I mean, if you're working hard for it, it gets noticed. And they obviously saw that she was really passionate about it and wanted to help her out. So they just, hopefully, if she'll be bigger, they know it's going to be like an investment almost.
That's great. I think there's so many ways you can do it. And there's the field is not crowded on most social channels for things that are business related, even though I think that's a good opportunity for people. I mean, LinkedIn is really crowded, but I still think most people could benefit by being more active, right? Build their professional network that will help expose them to opportunities. Maybe it's not jobs, maybe it's just, it could be anything, but it's a platform that I'm surprised more people don't inherently take advantage of.
Yeah, it makes it easier for you if you're the kind of person who's like, I'm going to be, enterprising about it and kind of decide to take a step outside of your comfort zone, because a lot of people don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to or they don't understand how it can be helpful. to them. But I think that if you are the kind of person who does, like, there's a lot of opportunity to maybe not make it your main source of income, but maybe a side one, or to help you lead you to, other kinds of opportunities, like beyond not necessarily making money through just posting videos or whatever, but like, connecting with the right people.
I'd say, like, even as another example, there's this one person that I love watching where she like makes commercials at home. So her whole Instagram is basically a profile of like commercials that she like was like, if Wendy's were to hire me, this is what their commercial would look like.
Smart.
And she ended up getting like deals, and brands started asking her like, hey, make a commercial for me. Like, this actually looks good. So she put herself out there, gained a following, and
Brilliant. I've probably told you this story before. This is a long time ago. I mean, 12 plus years ago, we were hiring a position for Hard Rock, and it was a new position, and it had to do with digital marketing. Now, this 12 years ago, things were a lot different. The landscape wasn't as sophisticated as it is today. It was a brand new role, and they were helping us. We helped them create a job description for it. And our candidate who we submitted created a video resume, or not a video resume, but just a video. She had a resume. She had a great background for it. She was perfect for the role and ended up getting hired. But one of the things that caught the Hard Rock's attention was she went to one of their hotels on a weekend and walked around and had her family film her as she talked about what she would change if she were hired. And it was so damn impressive. It was like, how could you not hire this person, right?
Yeah.
And so if you think about that kind of innovation and effort and creativity, we talk so much to candidates about do something that others aren't willing to do, right? Not just a lame cover letter, but something handwritten. There was a guy the other day who put his resume on a donut box, right? And that's kind of cheesy, but I bet it got attention, right? It got him noticed. Well, it got him viral on social media. So, someone's going to find that to be interesting. And I just think there's so much opportunity for people to take advantage of separating themselves in a way that it doesn't even require that much effort, right? Make a video showing what you do if you got the job. Game changer for most candidates.
I think that's the key, is doing something that like separates you out. If you've got a stack of candidates, but this person has got like, a minor following on social media and they're always posting about your industry and you can tell like they're really passionate about it. Like that means something to a lot. I mean, years ago, I remember talking to a manager at, I think it was one of the hospitality companies here in Orlando. I can't remember which one. But it was they wanted someone who was in their network department or infrastructure department, and the person that they went with was a candidate that we had submitted, and the reason they chose him over all these other ones is because he had like a home lab that he had set up, and he would spend all his time and he would post videos on Instagram of like setups he was trying and things, and it was he didn't even have a lot of followers, but the fact that he was doing that showed the manager, they're like, he does this in his spare time. He's really interested in it. It's like a thing that he loves to do. And they were really impressed with that. So that always like stuck out to me as like, it was a cool thing because it was like him and like 4 other people and they were all kind of the same credentials, but like he had this like extra thing that he was spending his free time kind of doing. So
yeah, who are you going to hire, right? If you have 4 candidate resumes, are you going to hire the ones that all look alike or the one that has a lab at his house where he does it on the side as a hobby? It's not even a question. That hire was probably one of the easiest you've ever been involved in, I would guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting because that was a specific thing that stood out, and I didn't even think about it at the time, but like apparently he talked about it in his interview a bunch, and because he was able to show that, like, so that kind of just expand that out, and that was, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. So it's even bigger now. Like that's why I see it as being useful. If this is an area that you're really interested in, there's some tips and tricks you can steal from, influencers, even if you don't have a big following, that can kind of help you in whatever your search is. So,
yeah. So if you've gotten this far with us, my recommended takeaway from today is just sprinkle in a little bit of your professional knowledge and expertise into your social platforms. And we all have to find, where that balance is as far as professional versus personal. And we won't get into that today, but it behooves you to do it. Right. It's going to benefit you if someone can, because recruiters will look up your social channels. They'll look up your social accounts, whether you think they should or not. let it be known it happens, right? And I've had clients over the years ask us, "Hey, you do that, don't you?" Yeah, of course we do, right? And it is just in your interest, right? Go just a little bit farther, than everyone else is, and you'll stand out in a big way.
If you know the rules, the rules of the game and how these people are playing, like even if you don't follow all of them, like you should at least be aware of all of these things that you can do. Like it's really nice. Knowledge is power. I'll leave it at that. Like you should know all about it.
100%. All right. Did we cover this enough, you guys, today?
I think we did.
I think we gave some good advice today too.
Everybody's ready to go be an influencer now?
I'm not going to go follow some influencers to read the comments about them that people leave, the mean comments.
And I'm going to go paint everything beige behind me. So for next week, get
You
ready.
have to wear beige too. It has to be the full aesthetic.
I had no idea that. How did I not know that?
Yeah.
All right. Beige it is.
If you saw that, it's like the Instagram aesthetic.
Every single product in their house, from toothbrush to toothpaste, is beige.
Beige toothpaste. I don't know if that's what I would recommend.
Beige toothpaste tube with white toothpaste coming
Maybe
out.
white. We'll go.
I don't believe you. I you know what? I do not believe you at this point. So
Crazy.
I'm not buying it. All right. We're going to have to do a little homework on this. Get back next week. All right, you guys. Is that it? We're good?
That's
I think
it.
so.
See you
Bye
next
for
time.
now. Thanks for joining us.